Developing news, the man charged with shooting into a crowd at the Virginia Beach Oceanfront faces a judge. Police say Ladarius Trizvan hit 6 people when he allegedly fired a gun near 18th Street and Pacific Avenue, hours after the Independence Day fireworks. 13 News Now reporter Stephen Graves is live in Virginia Beach with what happened in court today. Stephen.
Well, Janet, it was pretty straightforward hearing. He was formally read his charges, but now that police have put his face to the crime, workers at a store with a front row view to this shooting, well, they actually are showing us now the moments before the chaos broke out. It looks like another calm day at the oceanfront, people strolling down Atlantic Avenue. On this night, it was moments after July 4th festivities. Soon, though, chaos erupts. People scatter after police say shots rang out. 6 people injured after police say 21-year-old Ladarius Trizvan fired into a crowd. He's now the suspect. Police say they used video to identify him. In this exclusive clip, shop owners say he was caught strolling moments before the shooting. The man gathers with a group to the side of the store, his face hidden by a sign. Soon after, movement in the area and a muzzle flash. People frantically scatter into the store. Yesterday, Police Chief Jim Cerveris saying the investigation had strong leads throughout.
Detectives have been working very close to clear that case, as well as the officers who responded to all of the shooting. Police
say they got a warrant for his arrest the day of the shooting, tracking him down near his home in Emporia, Virginia. That's about 100 miles away from the oceanfront. In court today, Trizvan asked to talk to his family, asked to get a bond. The judge saying he'll stay behind bars until a bond hearing. And Trizvan is charged with 6 counts of malicious wounding, as well as 6 counts of possession of a firearm in commission of a felony.